My entitled parents demand that I give up my baby to my twin sister, as they claim that she would be a better parent than I ever would as a single mom. Things have gotten so bad that they said they would cut me out of the family if I don't sign away my rights to my child over to my sister. Here's what happened. So I'm in a really tough spot and I could use some outside perspective. I'm a 28-year-old single woman, currently 7 months pregnant and living on my own. My sister and I are twins and she's the golden child of our family, always getting special treatment, praise, and the best of everything. Growing up, she was the perfect daughter in my parents' eyes, while I often felt like the overshadowed one. It was like our entire childhood revolved around her being showered with gifts and accolades, while my achievements were downplayed or ignored. Well, she's now married and I've heard her husband is great, but they've been struggling with infertility, and the situation has now taken an insane turn. Recently, our parents approached me with a shocking proposal. They want me to give my baby to my sister and her husband once it's born because they believe that she deserves it more. My heart sank when they expressed this. They argue that since she has a stable home and a family, she is better suited to raise a child than I am, given that I'm just a single mother. This left me feeling heartbroken and furious. I get that they are excited about being grandparents, but I've worked hard to prepare for this baby, and I firmly believe that my child deserves to be raised by me. Sure, I might not be a picture-perfect family in their eyes, but I have love to give and I can provide for my baby. I thought my refusal would put an end to their unreasonable expectations, but instead they escalated things. They staged a family meeting where they tried to pressure me further. My mom even went as far as to give me the ultimatum, saying to me, "If you don't do this for your sister, we will withdraw all support for you and will stop considering you a part of this family." And this completely blindsided me, and I was left feeling more isolated than ever. I've since expressed my clear stance. My child is not a pawn in this ridiculous game. I've told my parents I'm not giving up my baby, and frankly, I was surprised they would ever even ask, but I'm worried that my refusal might permanently fracture our already strained family ties. So am I the jerk for saying no to my parents and refusing to give my baby to my sister? What should I do? Before we go any further, the original poster has a lot of updates they want to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I want to say thanks for the comments, as I didn't expect this to blow up so much. A common theme is people suggesting me to either move or get cameras, which I currently can't do either. I can't get cameras because during the fight that caused me to move out of my parents' home, they broke my laptop and I can't afford a new one yet. I also can't move because I can't afford a new house. I'm still recovering from buying my current one because that was only 5 months ago. Thankfully though, they don't know where I live. And I also forgot to include this, but my sister and her husband also live with my parents. I also see that people keep asking me why I need to be told if I'm the jerk or not, and if I need to cut them off. It's because part of me just can't help but feel insane guilt for cutting them off or even denying my child grandparents and an aunt and uncle. But all of this is so frustrating and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, this is legitimately a crazy situation, but I think it's one that the original poster slowly began to figure out. In some further updates, they said that they finally did decide to cut them off, and they've pretty much blocked them everywhere. This even gets crazier because apparently the family is making up this story that the original poster agreed to carry the baby for her sister and husband. And I seriously find this absolutely crazy. Like, that is just insane in my opinion. Like, they're literally trying to take this baby from you. Like, that is all that's happening right now. And that is extremely concerning. Like, why are they so obsessed with this other sister getting this child instead of allowing the original poster to raise the child herself? Like, this is nuts. The original poster also said that they did find some really cheap cameras they can put up that basically connect to their phone. And that's a massive relief because these people clearly are like trying to work against you in this regard. So no, obviously you are definitely not the jerk. This situation is beyond irrational, and hopefully you can get away from these people and never deal with this garbage ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen treats me like garbage and is blatantly rude to me after she doesn't have her stuff together for an art gallery she was trying to get into. And I'm honestly so done being treated like this, and I really hope I never deal with her ever again. Here's what happened. So I work in an art gallery that hosts exhibitions for the Biennale of Venice. A lady comes in and shows me an online ticket, telling me that later on a friend of hers will be coming in. So I scan her ticket and it's all good. Well, fast forward, and in comes Karen, loudly and rudely complaining of how hard it is to find the palace, while also making sure that she shows off plenty of swear words in these sentences. She then shows me an online ticket. Now, I tried to scan it, but it didn't go through. I realized that she must have been friends with the aforementioned lady, so I tell her, "Oh, this must have been your friend's ticket. Can you scroll down to the next ticket on the PDF, please?" Well, she did, but then she proceeded to keep her phone too far away from my scan scanning device. So I extended my hand, signaling for her to give it to me since she was busy talking with her friend who had come back up to the entrance. When she handed the phone, I mistakenly touched the screen, moving the PDF around. I fumbled for a moment trying to find the barcode, and she said in this nasty tone, "Oh, just keep it, I don't have all day." So I moved a couple of steps away, but I was done by then. So I gave her the phone back. This whole interaction lasted maybe a couple of minutes. When Karen and her friend came back down, I caught the following conversation. The friend said that someone else couldn't come with them because they had phlebitis, and this Karen actually had the audacity to chime in and be like, "Oh, he's a jerk." Now, maybe she didn't mean to say that he's a jerk for having phlebitis, but it most definitely sounded like it. And I'm honestly just so done with Karens like this because they make my job a living nightmare. Yeah, this is really some unacceptable behavior because seriously, all she had to do was show the ticket and then move on. But instead, she literally took the rude route and was just obnoxious the entire time. Like seriously, it doesn't take that much to be a decent human being and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, here's my ticket." And as someone who's done their time in customer service, I've kind of learned that some people literally are just miserable people. Like literally, there is nothing that you can do to try and make them happy. You could be handing them gold bars and they would complain about the wait. And this entitled Karen absolutely fits the bill. A group of entitled Karens ruin a wedding by getting completely wasted and getting up in the face of the workers at the venue. Things got so bad that not only were the cops nearly called, but the bride and groom themselves had to tell these people that they needed to leave. Here's what happened. So to start things out, this happened about 3 months ago. I work in catering, and at an event back around Father's Day weekend, there was a wedding that was possibly the group's worst encounter with a guest. The evening started off rough with a wedding coordinator rearranging the tables, so all the tables, numbers, and guests were off sync with the paperwork that we had. When it came time to serve dinner, we were all confused on where to go and who to serve. Tables were getting half served and they were getting mixed meals. And sure, this wasn't a huge problem and it was fixable, but that was just a precursor for what's to come. During dinner, there was this one guest who stopped one of my coworkers and wanted to exchange their meal, even though they started eating a filet that had already been cooked at medium. Now that's not a problem, and we change meals whenever we need to. They start eating the second meal and they wanted the same thing, so they stopped the same coworker and asked to take it away as they then started eating off of their husband's plate instead. After dinner and some cleanup, that guest, who we found out was the bride's aunt, decided to eat off the maid of honor's dinner plate while she was off dancing. One coworker, the same one that she stopped before, told her not to eat that food, especially because she was not given permission to eat it. Now everything was quiet until we put out a late night station with soft pretzels and some dipping sauces. As we were waiting for the pretzels to heat up, we put the dipping sauces out on the table so everyone knew more food was coming. And then the aunt comes up to the station with her daughter and starts to put the dipping sauces straight onto plates. But the problem is that we didn't even put out spoons. They were using their fingers and hands to put the sauces onto the plates. And 3 different coworkers, including the manager of the event, saw the 2 ladies do this, in which the 2 of them declined that they even did it. So we had no choice but to throw away all the sauces. The aunt then went up to one of the coworkers, who is one of the nicest people I've ever worked with, and starts getting in her face and starts calling her a liar and a drunk. And it got to a point where that coworker wanted to call the police on the aunt. When we thought it was over, the aunt comes to the back of the house asking for the manager. Well, the manager comes out and the aunt starts getting in the manager's face, asking for names of people, and starts calling the manager a drunk and a liar, even though there were multiple people who saw her do this. The aunt then said things like, "Oh, let me see it on camera. I'm gonna leave a bad review on Yelp," while also adding in that she works this hotel in Chicago. And while this was going on, I was standing as my manager's impromptu bodyguard. As a result of that, she was cut off from the bar, and the bride and groom were told about the incident. The couple then decided to have the 2 ladies leave their wedding and escorted them out of the wedding venue. And the bride and groom were firmly on our side with everything that happened. To top the night off, at some point while everyone was dancing, the DJ was getting a drink from the bar, and a different guest decided to go behind the DJ booth and change the entire wedding playlist. Well, the DJ definitely saw this and yelled so loud at the guest that it was heard over the music. And obviously, shortly after that, the guest left. It was one of, if not the worst experience I had with a guest of a wedding, and it was also my first experience with a Karen, and honestly, it kind of lived up to the hype. Wow, I can't imagine acting like that at somebody else's wedding, and then trying to be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna get all of you in trouble. I'm gonna leave a bad review." It's like, dude, this is not the time. This is not your wedding. It's not your event. Why would you act so selfish and so insane? Like, this only makes the bride and groom look bad, and it only led to them getting kicked out of the venue altogether. Like, that is not gonna help anybody. So truly, people who act like this are absolute scumbags because their behavior was truly unacceptable. example. My entitled uncle takes advantage of my grandparents by practically forcing them to do everything for him in his life. And I'm honestly so concerned because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my uncle takes advantage of my grandparents and it makes me so angry. It's gone on for many years and we're talking like 20 plus years. They're in their mid-70s and my grandma has major health problems as well. So she doesn't feel good most days. First off, he's 47 years old and has never had a place of his own. He has no physical or mental disabilities preventing him in anything, and he's never even had a bank account. My grandparents keep his money in an envelope and gives it to him when he needs it or buys him whatever he needs. She said they can't let him have the money because he's too nice of a person and will give all his money to friends or other women. But I told them that he is a grown man, and if he can't handle his money responsibly, then that's his issue. She then said that he's not an adult yet, so I said, okay, then what age will he become an adult? But she just responded by saying that she isn't sure, and he hasn't even had a job in about 10 years, but she somehow still says that he has money left over from a job that he had at an auto shop 10 years ago. He's been on and off many substances, if you know what I mean, and I've even personally seen him going through withdrawals. Some of the other family knows, but won't confront my grandparents about it. But you know what? I do, and I think that's why we fight a lot. One of my exes from many years ago, who was actually great, had contacted me 2 years ago or so and said that he in fact does a lot of substances, and then she asked my grandma if she could please do an intervention, and my grandma then got super mad and said nothing bad is going on. My grandma even says that they can't put him in a rehab because they can't afford it. He and his ex ended up breaking up and going separate ways because she said she couldn't deal with it, so I decided to stay in touch with her. When he is home, my grandparents will take his car keys because according to them, he hangs with a wrong crowd who try to take his money and drive his truck. Well, he ended up selling his truck, and I had suggested that they use that money to put him into rehab. But they said they're not going to do that to him because he doesn't do anything wrong. He ended up buying a new truck with the money, and they eventually give him his keys back when he starts to get angry. And that's because his withdrawals are over and he needs another fix. So he gets agitated in that moment. He also only ever moves in with women. Most of the time, he's living with my grandparents if he doesn't have a woman to stay with. He hasn't had a job in many years, and when he does have a job, he ends up getting fired because he stops showing up or he just doesn't like it. My grandma literally will call in sick for him because he refuses to get out of bed. She will lie to his boss and say that he isn't feeling well, and he just sleeps all day and night. In fact, he only wakes up to use the bathroom, watch TV, or eat their food. He will disappear for weeks on end. Then he'll come back and clearly be going through withdrawals. But my grandma will say that he just has a stomach virus. But I said to her, okay, so he's getting a stomach virus every few weeks? And she actually said yes to me. They are completely fine with him not working, but have extremely high expectations for me. I mean, man, if I even use a day of PTO or call in sick, I get a lecture by saying, you're just wanting to sit around and be lazy. If you get fired, we ain't helping you with nothing. You should never be missing a day of work. Now, he has currently been living with a woman for about 3 years or so, but she recently kicked him out, and my grandma said that she feels bad for him. My grandma always says that she wishes he could find a good woman to take care of him, but I tell her it's not a woman's responsibility to take care of a grown man. The lady ended up letting him move back in, but my grandma said that she tries to take his money and uses him, so apparently she has to keep it or he will just give it all away. When really what I think is going on is that the lady probably just wants his help to pay bills there and to get a job, and she's probably only asking for money so she can pay the bills. She said, oh, he's such a kind-hearted person. He would give the shirt off his back to anybody and people just take advantage of it. For about a year now, they do all his grocery shopping for him and hand delivers it to him where he's living about 20 minutes away. I have even seen the text messages that he sends her, and he sends them text messages saying that he's needing groceries again and then sends them a list of what he wants, and then they go and buy it and deliver it to him once a week. My grandma said that his truck is broke down so he can't get any food, but I said, can't he do his own grocery delivery from Walmart or another place instead of you guys having to drive back and forth like every week? She said to me, he doesn't know how to do that, and that's too hard for him. He would then text them stuff like, I guess I'm just gonna have to start riding a bike to get food, but it's so hot outside, I will probably get sick. And it's always a major guilt trip, saying things like, I have the best parents that anyone could ask for. I told my grandma he has it made. He doesn't have to work, they are his personal shoppers, so he doesn't even have to go to the grocery store or even place orders for the groceries. He doesn't even have to pay his own bills. They just process the payments for him. She then said to me, he doesn't know how to do any of that stuff. And I said to her, well, while I'm sure he could be taught, you need to allow him to learn and grow. But she said to me, he wouldn't be able to understand how to do it. So at this point, I'm just majorly concerned. The day they become incapable of doing these things for him, or when the day comes that they pass away, the rest of our family is not going to do any of this stuff for him. He will truly crumble and fall apart. He doesn't have to lift a finger for anything. They handle all of his bills, stuff like his car insurance and his phone bill, so he's never had to make a payment on his bills. He's never even had a bank account. But I can tell you one thing, the day that they stop and become incapable of doing stuff for him, I promise you I will not allow this to happen anymore. He will finally have to take responsibility of his life and finally do things for himself. Wow, this story is insane to me because, like, seriously, this guy is in his 40s. He absolutely is an adult. Like, what is your grandma's problem? It's crazy to me that she's ignoring all these problems in his life while also, like, hyper-focusing on the fact that he can't handle himself. Like, this guy is a total leech and he just doesn't do anything with his life. He has no job. He doesn't even have a bank account, which, like, baffles me at the age of 47. Like, that's something you get when you're like a teenager. Like, how does he not have a bank account? And worst of all is the grandparents are literally enabling this. They're allowing this to happen and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna take care of him. He can't do anything for himself. Meanwhile, your uncle's like, yeah, I can't do anything for myself. And he literally has it made. He just doesn't have to do anything now. So in my opinion, I think you've definitely said your piece and you've done everything you can to try and get through to your grandma, but clearly it's not working. And that is definitely not your fault. It's not your problem that they don't get it because the way your uncle's acting is truly insane. And I think you have it right. When your grandparents pass away and they no longer wait on this guy hand and foot, it is truly going to be a clear wake-up call. My entitled great uncle has squandered every opportunity that he's ever had and is now taking away from the entire family in a way that I never expected. Here's what happened. So my great uncle retired recently from his illustrious career as a TV cameraman for a TV station that doesn't transmit outside the country he lives in. He lives in a house that has been in our family for 3 generations, and it is a sentimental property as our family bought it after moving north from the south during the Great Migration. He lived there his entire life and paid his mom $300 in rent very briefly, which even back then was basically free. Then, after his mom and dad passed away, he lived there rent-free as it was already paid off. But now he decided that he wants to sell the house and move to an income-controlled apartment and has enlisted the help of my grandma, my mom, and my mom's cousin. I helped my mom there and I had so many questions. This house was really nice. It had 2 bathrooms and a ton of bedrooms. It was in town and it had fiber internet, and it was zoned to be 2 separate apartments. Why would he sell this? In short, he says he cannot afford the repairs, but honestly, why would that be the case? He worked as a TV cameraman for an awful news station that doesn't even broadcast outside of our country for like 40 years, and he said it himself that he did it because it was easy, despite not being paid very well at all. He eats out all the time because he can't figure out how to use the appliances, and he literally has no credit despite being 62 years old. He had to ask my grandma to loan him money and co-sign on loans for repairs. The biggest loan he ever took out was a complete waste of money. He had to get boilers fixed and even put off fixing the electrical to do so. Boilers are expensive to fix as not many people work on them anymore. And I facepalmed at this because if he fixed the electrical, he could have gotten a mini split system and had superior heating and cooling. He also has plumbing issues that he can't afford to fix, and he cites this as his reason for selling it. Now, you might be wondering, how much money does he want to sell this big house in town for? Well, he wants to sell it for $50,000. You can't even buy a trailer for that anymore. He then plans to move into an income-controlled apartment despite being against government handouts. Now, let me explain. I know someone might be saying it's his house and he can sell it if he wants, and I do not deny that he has legal right to sell it. However, I feel that since he only has this house in the first place because of the generosity of our family and their desire to help the next generation of our family, that he has an ethical obligation to do the same. For example, older people when they vote for anti-environmental policies. That is their right as an American to do so, but I think we can all agree that they should not do that. One idea that my mom and I had was to try and get him to put off selling it until he passed away, thus triggering my state's next of kin laws and having the house go to my grandma by default. But then we learned a new problem with that. He has a will and left the house to my mom's cousin that I mentioned above. And a few problems with that is that for starters, he is 42 years old and he's currently unemployed. He has only one job as a grocery bagger, and as you can tell by that description, he is not very smart. He has no wife or kids, only a girlfriend who is even dumber than he is and supports the 2 of them working at McDonald's. He only makes his money by pressuring my grandma into giving him money, and he is likely to just sell the house to some kind of developer. For reference, my mom is his niece, so just as close to him him as my mom's cousin. My mom has a stable career, a husband who works in construction and electrical, and has 2 kids. So any logical person would give the house to my mom. She can afford to take care of it better, and she has 2 kids. Also, if my post sounds selfish, I would argue that selling the house is against his best interest in the long run, because what is clearly going to happen, especially with his rising medical cost, is that he will have issues paying rent and end up being on the street. So my great uncle is acting super entitled and very selfish, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I can see where the original poster is coming from, but also their attitude about this entire thing is really kind of jaded. It really does sound like you have sour grapes that your family's not getting the house, and that your great uncle probably just wants to sell it off and get rid of it. But on that end, if your family really wants it, then why don't you guys buy it? Like, that might be a good solution so you can keep the house and then your mom and your dad can take care of it accordingly. But for you to act like, oh yeah, I deserve this house better than my other family members, like that in my opinion is really weird and it's not a good look. And just because someone works as a bagger at a grocery store doesn't mean they're stupid. Like, that comment is so uncalled for. So sure, your great uncle might be moving things forward in his own self-interest, but in my opinion, if anyone's acting entitled in this situation, I definitely think it's you and not your extended family. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.